Okay, right guys, in this tutorial I'm going to go through the spreadsheet task which is on the Specimen paper 2017, it reads here. The spreadsheet task is in section B, so it's task B1, and we're just going to go ahead and open the wages spreadsheet. Here we go. And when the spreadsheet opens, when you open any spreadsheet for any of the tasks that you're going to be doing, just make sure that you're actually paying attention to what's actually on the sheets before you start the tasks. Have a look around, how many columns are there, what kind of data is on it. Have a look at the next spreadsheets if there are any, worksheets, and just check out, what kind of data there is. You've got tax value here, you've got overtime rate and so on, okay, and take care of any notes as well. Right, okay, so let's go ahead and start the first task. Don't ignore anything in the grey areas, please. Open the spreadsheet wages, open the worksheet payments, done that. Enter task B1, your name, etc. in the header. So insert, normally we do a footer, this time we're going to do a header. And then at the top, you enter task B1 followed by your name, etc. I'm just doing my name for now. There we go. And remember to get out of this view. You can either click on the short cut icon at the bottom, or you can go to view and then normal view. Here we go. Right, next. Task B1A, enter an automatic date in the footer. Okay, so insert, header and footer. And at the bottom, if you scroll down, it's already got the date there anyway, but just in case yours doesn't, then you simply insert current date. Click that. And that should appear. Lovely. Switch back to normal view. Keep going. Right, next part. Insert a row at the top of payments and merge the cells, merge and center the cells A1 to O1. So first let's insert a row at the top. So you right click on the top row. That's currently the top row. And simply click insert. And then you merge and center A1 all the way to O1. So you select the cells first and then go to your home ribbon. And then you'll see merge and center. Okay, if I just zoom out, you can see that that cell now is like one big cell. Those cells have now become one big cell. Okay, keep going. Insert the heading staff payments July. Make sure you enter it exactly as it's asked you to. Right, so zoom back in again. So staff payments and then July. So capital S, TAFF, capital P, staff payments, capital J, July. Done. Okay, that's obviously gone here because that's the center. Moving on. Set the formatting of the heading to font size 24, color white, cell shading dark gray. Okay, so first font size 24, font color is white, there we go, and cell shading is dark gray. Okay, make it an obvious dark gray, there we go. Task B1B. Right, Sylvie wants to use spreadsheet tools to analyze data. Use spreadsheet functions to display the hourly rate and contracted hours and a few other things. So when it says functions, that means it wants you to use like a special formula, not just a plus or a minus, times, divide, like a simple formula, or just using the operations, the 4 operations. You've got to use an actual function. So that would be things like sum, average, max, min, if, VLOOKUP, okay, an actual function. So display the hourly rate and contracted monthly hours. So here, if I just zoom in a bit, oopsie daisies. Let's get that all back. Here we go. So you've got hourly rate, sorry, here, hourly rate, and then the contracted monthly hours. So this is what we need to fill, but we're going to do it automatically, okay, because it says to use a spreadsheet function. I can see we've got pay grade here, and I remember seeing something related to pay grade here. Here we go. So this is what we're going to be looking at, this table, if you like, here of information. When we find the pay grade, we want it to return the value for the hourly rate from here and the contracted monthly hours from here. So we're going to be using a VLOOKUP function. So it's a lookup function and specifically VLOOKUP. So let's go ahead and enter the formula. This is an easier way to do it, just in case especially you get confused about, whether to do true or false at the end if you've already done a VLOOKUP formula before and you know what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and go to lookup and reference. So under formulas, lookup and reference, VLOOKUP. So you're going to need 4 arguments here. The first argument is the lookup value. What are you actually looking for? So I'm going to be looking for the pay grade value. So either 1, 2, 3, 4. So you don't type 1, 2, 3, 4. You just click on B3. So lookup value is B3. What is a table? What is a table array that you're going to be looking for this value in? So this is when we switch to the table, the details table, or the details worksheet rather. Let me just take this over here so you can see it. And you've got to go ahead and highlight, select the whole table. Now Excel will look for your value in the first column of the table, not the second, not the third, not throughout the whole thing, just the first column. It always looks in the first column of whatever table you've selected. So when it finds your value, your pay grade value in the first column, it will stop and then it will go across to whatever column number you have told it to go to and return that value. So in this case, we're working for hourly rate. So now here, column index number, we're going to specify 2, column number 2. Okay, because hourly rate was in column number 2 of our table on the details worksheet. Finally, you've got range lookup. If you want a closest match to 1, then you type true. If you want an exact match to 1, then you write false, or an exact match to the pay grade, then you write false. Okay, so we don't want closest match to pay grade, we want exact match to pay grade, sorry. So you type false. Okay, so that's the formula. Click OK, and that's done. Okay, the formula is required. It doesn't say to replicate it, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it now so we can just sort something out, which some of you will probably know already that's going to happen. There we go. So we've got issue here. VLOOKUP B4 is correct. In details A3 to C6. Let me check the cell references here. Right, A2 to C5. A3 to C6. So because it's a relative cell reference, because B3 changes to B4, changes to B5, the same thing is happening with these cell references. So what do we need to do? We need to lock these cells and make them absolute cell references. So we click on F4 on the keyboard. There we go. And that means we are locking cell A2 and locking cell C5 so that this range is going to be constant when we replicate the formula down, so it doesn't change. So let me go ahead and do that very quickly. There we go. So that's actually much better now. It's got an absolute cell reference, so it's kept the first cell value constant, the last cell value constant of our reference table, and that's all good. Okay, another way you can do this formula is by not just having a cell reference, it's by actually naming the cell range and then just calling that table by name later. Okay, you might need to use this, possibly an activity might ask you, a task might ask you in the exam to actually go ahead and name a range. So let me just go ahead and show you how you do that. Go to details, and where your table is, select it, and then up here you've got the name box. If I click on the name box and I just go ahead and type a name for the table, like details table, no spaces, details table, and then I press enter, that table, that range will now be known as details table. If I click here, that's C1. If I click here, that's A4. If I click there, that's B1. If I click this range here, it just says A2. It's the first cell that's in that range. If I click the whole table or select the whole table, it's referring to it as details table. So here in the VLOOKUP formula, instead of having details, exclamation mark, and then the cell reference, you can actually just type the name of the table, details, and I don't need to finish it off because it's come up here, details table, enter, and there you go, it's worked. And now I don't need to worry about, doing the absolute cell reference because it is an absolute cell reference on its own anyway, because it's the name of the range. So anyways, you might need to know that anyway. So that's just another way of doing the VLOOKUP formula. Right, we're going to go ahead and do the other VLOOKUP for these contracted monthly hours over here. So again, we do a VLOOKUP formula. This time I'm just going to type it. VLOOKUP, open bracket. So look up the pay grade in the details table. I can go ahead and select this like this. And you can see here it's actually named it details table. And this time I want a value returned from not 2, but column number 3. So my column index number, so just after the comma, is 3. And finally, is it an approximate match or is it an exact match? I want an exact match. There we go. Close your bracket, press enter, done. 160 hours for the first value. There we go. That's all done now. Okay. Again, it hasn't asked us to replicate it, but I've just done it anyway, just to show you, because we're going along anyway. So the VLOOKUPs are worth 4 marks altogether. Well worth knowing VLOOKUPs. 4 marks is a lot. Next, it says calculate the total hours per month. Total hours per month. Now you can see here, this is not total hours per month. So in this task, you are asked to kind of go back, forward, back kind of thing. Here you go. Here's total hours per month. Total hours per month will be hours worked week 1, 2, 3, and 4 added together. Now remember to read the instructions properly and know what formula or function you're supposed to be using. It says function, so you can't do this plus this plus this plus this. That's not a function. A function is a proper kind of predefined formula, if you like. So it's going to be the sum function that you're going to use, which automatically adds up cells together. Okay, cells are together. It doesn't do minus, times, divide. Not really supposed to use it for that. It's really for adding. So you give it a range, F3 to I3. There we go. So all of these four. Close the bracket, enter, done. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and replicate it because I'm just going to get ahead of myself. There we go. Then you keep going. Last one, calculate overtime pay. So again, a function to calculate the overtime pay. Let's scroll along over here. You got overtime hours worked. So it's not that one. So it's this one, overtime pay. Calculate overtime pay. Now, how are we going to do this? Right. We've got the hourly rate. We've got the contracted monthly hours. And then we've got overtime hours worked, which is something we haven't been asked to work out yet. So overtime pay is going to be worked out by looking at the overtime hours that were actually worked multiplied by the actual overtime pay, the overtime rate, and that would be the hourly rate plus or times by 1.5. So it says here, this represents time and a half for each overtime hour. So that means if you get paid 20 pounds, 20 pounds an hour usually, then times that by 1.5 to calculate how much you would get paid if it's an overtime hour. Okay, so it would be a 1.5, so 20 times 1.5 is 30. So that's how you would work out how much per hour by doing the 1.5. So because we haven't worked out hours worked, overtime hours worked, it seems a bit odd that we're being asked to do an overtime pay formula even though we haven't worked out overtime hours worked. But if it's asking you to do it, then you just go ahead and do it. So in this case, I'm just going to hide these cells for now because they are in my way. And I just want to be able to zoom in so you can see a bit better. Here we go. So overtime pay is going to depend on whether they well, it's going to be calculated first by seeing whether they've got any overtime hours worked. So some people may not have worked any overtime hours. So we're going to go ahead and do an if statement. Again, I'm going to go up here and get the formula. And this time it's a logical formula and an if formula here. Okay. So if this value is more than 0, because that's how we're going to calculate overtime pay. Otherwise, it should just be 0. So the logical test is if this value is more than 0, then, so value if true, what to do if it is more than 0, then get the number of overtime hours worked and then multiply it by the hourly rate and then again by this value, 1.5. Okay, so you don't type 1.5, you actually click on the cell reference. So if K3 is more than 0, then multiply the K3, which is the number of overtime hours worked, by the hourly rate, and then again by the overtime rate. So we're increasing it by 1.5 or times 1.5. And value if false, so if it's not more than 0, so otherwise if it's equal to 0, won't really be minus, then the value of false is 0. So overtime pay would equal 0. Let me just go ahead and press enter on that. So it's got 0 here at the moment. That's because we've got nothing in here at the moment. This will update itself once the overtime hours go in. So I'm going to go and copy this formula down, but I remember that, I've got this. It's a relative cell reference at the moment. I want that constant when I replicate the formula down. So remember to do F4, press enter, and then go ahead and drag that down up to row 13. Just double check that nothing went wrong. The formula is correct. Yes, if K10 is more than 0, then do K10 times C10, which is the hourly rate, times that 1.5 value. Otherwise, leave a value of 0 in this column. Okay, done. Right, that's the end of this task. I'm going to record another video to show you how to do part 2.